Once I was representing Israel, I really that was kind of like an unlocking point for me. I just felt now I had this pressure and this duty to, you kind of blend in when I'm one of 20 guys for USA, but now I'm the one pushing the sled, running with the Star of David on my helmet. So it's up to me to throw down and to represent proudly.
Welcome back to the show, Schmoozers. I'm David Cobby, and you're about to listen to another amazing episode of Schmoozing Time, the only show inspiring proud Jews to leverage their personal brands. Before we dive into this episode, make sure you're following the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This ensures you'll never miss another episode. When you think of the words Jewish and jet, what usually comes to mind? Most people, like myself, would immediately start daydreaming about that one time when they were on an El Al flight to Israel and got whacked in the face by a rabbi's payas. But no, this is not the type of Jewish jet that I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the Jewish jet who is a 4-time national champion, 7-time medalist, and a future Olympian at next year's 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan. If that's not impressive enough for you, this guest is also a practicing attorney and the co-founder of Advancing Jewish Athletes, a nonprofit focused on growing the sports ecosystem in both Israel and the broader Jewish community. I'm honored to welcome to this week's episode, Jared Jewish Jet Firestone. Jared, what's going on, brother? How are we doing today?
What's up, David? Thanks for having me on, and thanks for not putting any pressure on me to qualify for next season.
I always say to my guests, like, if I'm not hyping up my guest in that intro, like, it's a bad episode. So
No, we're gonna make it happen.
I mean, man, like, you are gonna make it happen. Like, I know there's obviously a lot of steps that have to go into to making it to Milan, but man, it's so good to have you on. And I know I've been waiting to schedule this one for a little bit because you're busy with the season, and always, of course, like, really appreciate you taking the time today. And before we jump into things, like, I know that intro was just a sliver of who you really are. So maybe take a second, Jared, and introduce you to all the listeners. Like, who is Jared Firestone? What should people know about you?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually grew up in South Florida, was raised proud Zionist, going to Jewish day school, was always felt like Israel was my homeland, always felt super proud to be Jewish. And then in high school, I saw the movie Munich, Steven Spielberg's film about the 1972 Olympics, when sadly 11 Israeli athletes and coaches were taken hostage and killed by Palestinian terrorists. And from that moment on, I decided my goal, the coolest thing in the world to me, would be to be able to represent Israel and to honor their memories by participating in the Olympic Games and in international competitions at large. So I made that my mission. I started running track in high school, was a county champion, Broward County, in 2008, and went on to run 4 years at Tulane in undergrad. Then I went to law school, and that's when I discovered skeleton in 2014. I was actually recovering from a health episode. I had a mini stroke, and while recovering, I saw skeleton on TV, and it looked pretty simple. You just run really fast, jump on the sled, and hang on. Not quite the case, I found out, but it was enough to get me to go up to Lake Placid, try it out. And about, 10, 11 years later now, I'm sitting here with you at World Championships in Lake Placid.
So I got to ask you, like, you said you went to, undergrad, you went to Tulane,
Mm-hmm.
You went to law school, you're now a professional athlete, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're also a practicing attorney, right?
Yes, that was a deal with my parents. Had to not only finish law school before starting skeleton full time, but pass the bar in 2 states. So made that happen. New York and Florida. If any of you have legal needs, I do probate work mostly. So and then started skeleton while studying for the bar, actually, and just continued. And now I have my own practice based in Florida, and I take it on the road with me when I'm competing.
I have so many questions. The first one is, like, how do you have the time to be a full-time athlete and a full-time lawyer and also the co-founder of a nonprofit? Like, those 3 things, like, I'm like thinking in my head, like, okay, when does Jared sleep? When does Jared eat? Like he's got to be training all the time. Lawyers work probably 80 hours a week. Like, how do you manage your time?
Yeah, there are some sacrifices. Obviously, sacrifices outside of those three things. So a lot of social sacrifices, a lot of financial sacrifices, any vacations that aren't sliding related. None of them are actually vacations, but traveling at least. Those are pretty hard to come by. And it's just kind of the deal I made with myself. I have another year of it. I've been doing it for Israel now since 2019. And that's just my priority. That's what my goal was. So sticking with it. And I know it'll pay big benefits when it's all said and done.
That's absolutely incredible. So going more into your Jewish background, Jared, you talk about Israel being probably the strongest part of your Jewish identity, which I would argue is the case for 99% of American Jews, right? A lot of American Jews are very connected to Israel, and we go on birthright, we go visit Israel. I have a ton of family there. Like it's something that's very special to us. But outside of Israel, right? You mentioned you grew up as a Zionist and going to a Jewish day school and living in Florida by nature. You're in a Jewish community. But would you say like when you grew up, before you watched the Munich movie, would you say that you were proud to be Jewish, or was this kind of like an eye-opening moment for you? Like, oh, these people got kidnapped for being Jewish. I should really be proud of my Jewish identity.
Yeah, so like you said, growing up in South Florida, going to Jewish day school puts you in a little bit of a bubble. So it's not something I thought about having to defend or represent really before that. I ended up going to a high school that was not a lot of Jewish people, obviously, but not 100% exclusively Jewish. But again, still allies everywhere. Everybody was kind of on the same page. And then as I just progressed up to the point where I decided to specifically do skeleton because it takes me to these places, there's 3 tracks in Germany. I'm in Austria. I was just in Norway last week, which maybe not in 2014, but now isn't the friendliest to us, and so on and so forth. Kind of as I progressed through life and went more into the real world, you could say, I just saw the need for having this type of ambassadorship and representation.
Absolutely.
On a global scale. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we get into your skeleton career, like you mentioned, you ran track, and I think you also ran track at Tulane. You said
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
so you've been an athlete your entire career, and being an athlete, I think it's got its ups and downs. I guess. I mean, I was no athlete. Like I played a year of high school basketball, but I'm wondering, was there any advantage to being a track athlete at all, or was it like you're learning this completely from square one?
Yeah, it's an interesting combination, skeleton. I think it takes a lot of skills that other sports don't have. So you are sprinting at the beginning. There's a high correlation, not exactly a direct correlation, meaning there might be somebody, I'm a faster sprinter than upright, but when you're running the skeleton position on ice, sometimes just technique and certain ways that the types of strength and speed we have, it might not correlate exactly with who's the better pusher. Once you're on the sled, skeleton becomes the ability to relax and execute steers going up to 85 miles per hour, depending what track you're at, and to be able to keep your brain on that type of focus for a minute with 5 Gs of force pressing down your neck at some points, and to do it all smoothly, calmly, and be able to repeat it twice in a race. So definitely is a unique skill set. I would say a combination of being a sprinter and a race car driver maybe would be the best way to put it. So there are advantages, but people come from all types of sport backgrounds and it translates. But like they say, when you start, at least in the US program, you could teach a great sprinter to slide, but you can't really teach a great slider how to sprint. So,
right. I watched your highlights, and obviously I've watched the Olympics before, and every time I watch somebody like slide down that track, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like when I was younger, I grew up in Minnesota, right? And we had sledding. And sledding, you could go, if you have big hills, you can go pretty fast. You can go like 20, 30 miles. Like, I don't know about that fast, but like if you really run up and do it, like you could go pretty fast. And I'm just watching you and your highlights, and I'm like, how are you not scared to go 80 miles an hour face first on ice and risk your life? I mean, haven't a lot of people died from this sport? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I feel like it's pretty risky.
Yeah, there was unfortunately a death in luge at the 2010 games,
Mhm.
and bobsled historically there's been, but they've been working to make the tracks a little engineered a little better so that doesn't happen. Uh, Skeleton, you're actually at the lowest center of gravity of all the sliding sports, so you're least likely to get thrown out of the track. But it did happen to somebody last year; they were okay. Uh, am I scared? The answer actually is yes. Like it's gotten less over the years.
Mhm.
And on race days, all that completely goes out the window. And I just become a track athlete again. All I'm thinking about is running as fast as I can at the start and then just having instinct take over. But definitely in training days, there's a lot of days it's really cold out. I might have taken a really hard hit on the run before or the day before. And you do have to kind of just summon up that purpose, like remind yourself why you're there. And just once you get to the line and start pushing, there's no going back.
Do you think? Do you think Skeleton's Jewish mother approved? Like, if you picked out 100 Jewish mothers in a crowd, right? How many of them do you think would say, "Oh, I'm going to let my son do skeleton"?
I would say I've met one actually,
Okay.
but I think the odds are still 99.9%. The answer would be no. That one's not my mom, by the way, but it's just somebody I met who their kid's starting out in Vancouver, but uh, in luge. But yeah, no, definitely not mother approved. We're kind of I guess probably everyone on our team has a little bit of a rebellious side there. But we're learning a lot, picking up tons of life skills, and it'll definitely pay off in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I want to go into a little bit of a more, I guess, scarier topic. You mentioned at the top of this episode that you had a mini stroke, and unfortunately, I think you're like the third guest that I've had that's had a stroke, which is actually like kind of crazy. Like I think I've done like 50 of these episodes, and three of them have had strokes, which is it's very scary. And like all the people have been what?
It's a high percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I it's not. I mean, it's not good. And like, it's scary because every single guest has been young and healthy, and so take me through like what exactly happened. Like, did you know that like you were having a stroke? Like, were you like thinking you were dying? Like, I want to hear about this experience, not because like I think I don't want. I'm not trying to reopen a wound for you, but I'm just out of like curiosity. Like, I don't understand like how healthy people that are athletes that eat healthy and do all these healthy things have strokes. So if you don't mind, like I would appreciate hearing that story.
Yeah, for sure. So uh, I don't know if I really quite knew what was happening. I definitely didn't think I was dying. I thought I just slept on my arm for a long time. And then, so I woke up, kind of was trying to shake it out. Wasn't really getting better, which is a little odd. Went to go brush my teeth. Now I'm using my left hand because I was still felt asleep on my right. And all of a sudden that starts getting a little numb. So then I still have a little movement. I call my dad, who's a gynecologist, but he's my go-to for any health concerns
Mm-mm.
regardless. And I started explaining to him what's happening, and all of a sudden the words aren't coming out, and he was able to recognize it. It didn't cross my mind. I thought I maybe had some like nerve damage from laying on my arm too long, but you're not quite comprehending what makes sense or not in the moment. Uh, and then he just told me to, luckily I had feeling in my legs the whole time. So he told me to walk over to urgent care, did that, end up in the ER 3 days in the hospital, I think, tons of tests, a few months in limbo. And then finally I was cleared. It was just from a small hole in my heart. And I don't know what happened while I was sleeping, but whatever it was, the blood went out of there instead of to my brain. So yeah, nothing to do with any health or healthy lifestyle things, just predisposition that was like a 1 in a billion chance of occurring, and it did.
That's crazy. So, and I know you said that you discovered skeleton while you were recovering.
Yeah.
So do you look at your stroke as a blessing because you were able to find skeleton through that, or do you still wish that it? I mean, I never want to wish a stroke on anybody, but if we're being real here, right? Like, it happened, it's in the past now. God willing, it will never happen to you again. But like, do you look at it as kind of a blessing now that you found skeleton, or is it still something that's like very scarring to you?
Yeah, I think it was like it was a me being sent back on the path that I was meant to do,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in a way that luckily wasn't. It was definitely not a pleasant experience. It was scary, but luckily no permanent effects on me. And I think that did kind of remind me of that purpose I had earlier on in my life of representing Israel and Jewish people and using my special talents, which was running fast, to do so. And so in a way, I think it kind of had to happen. I think if it didn't happen and I still was watching the Olympics at the same time, I would not have been motivated in the same way to actually act on that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it happened to you, but I mean, like you said, I think it's kind of just like, at least for me, I kind of look at things as like everything's a blessing in disguise, right? Like it's obviously very scary, and now you're well on your way to a very successful skeleton career. So thank God everything worked out, and thank God you're able to exercise okay and do everything normally. So it was really just a true blessing in that sense. And I know throughout this episode, you've kind of made it a point of like, I'm a Zionist. I love Israel. I love being Jewish. But was that always the case? Like, you know, obviously you represent Team Israel now when you're doing skeleton and when you're doing your runs, and you've created a foundation, which we'll talk about in a minute. But was that always your mission when you started skeleton, or were you very focused on getting into the sport first, and then you're like, oh, this could be a way that I can represent Israel?
Yeah. When I went, so initially it was more coming back from the stroke, and I wanted the physical challenge to myself to recover from that. And within 6 months, go to the combine in upstate New York and work out for Team USA and see if I could get advanced to the next level. But really, I was still thinking track at the time for representing Israel, but the training's very similar. So I was like, I'll just start with this and just see where I'm at. So I did that. They did like me. They invited me to learn how to slide later that year in the winter. So yeah, I would say initially I just got into it as just a challenge to myself with still the goal of representing Israel, but still in track. And then once I got into it a bit, I saw Israel, I started doing research. Saw Israel had a federation set up. There were a couple active athletes. And then I spoke to one of them, AJ Edelman, who ended up going to the Olympics for Israel in 2018. And now is my teammate. He does bobsled. And he advised me to just stick in the U.S. program a little longer. I was the only Israel athlete who came through like the U.S. programs development program, and just kind of take advantage of the resources they provide, because once you switch to Israel, you're all on your own.
Oh man. And when did you know that you were good? Was it the first national championship? Was it before then? Like, when did you know that skeleton was really your destiny and that you were on your way to become a legend in skeleton?
Yeah, legend in a small circle, but yeah. So when I did 3 years with the U.S. program, and I wouldn't say I was that great. I was actually looking at some results today. I think I finished like 11th out of the 20 or so guys that were at 13th actually out of the maybe 20 guys that were at that last national championship I did my third season. But then that's when I decided still I had the experience to switch to representing Israel, and I made Aliyah. And once I was representing Israel, I really that was kind of like an unlocking point for me. I just felt now I had this pressure and this duty to, you kind of blend in when I'm one of 20 guys for USA, but now it's I'm the guy for Israel. I'm the one pushing the sled, running with the Star of David on my helmet. So it's up to me to throw down and to represent proudly. So that summer, I just really took it upon myself to do all the little things that would make me better. Once the season came around, whether it was investing, getting the upgraded equipment, working out harder, doing the mental work, watching videos, talking to other athletes and learning how they think about the sport and the different tracks. And once I did that, I showed up to the next race and just did really well. Finished 8th in like a massive field of 34 internationals, I think.
Wow.
Which was a long ways from finishing 13th out of whatever it was, 20 Americans. So that was really cool. And then from there, it was kind of just took off, and had a lot of good surprising results to other people off the bat. And since then, just been cruising along.
That's incredible. I love how you subtly threw in that you made Aliyah there. Like that shouldn't be something super subtle. I feel like that in itself is, I mean, you're training to do very well in a sport that you had just adapted only a couple of years before, and now you made Aliyah. So in order to represent Team Israel, did you have to make Aliyah, or could you have still been like technically a U.S. citizen and be representing Israel through, I don't know, some sort of different, or could you still have been a U.S. citizen representing Israel?
Yeah, if I established residency, I could represent Israel in certain competitions, but not the Olympics. You have to be a citizen to represent the Olympics.
Got it.
Yeah, so I'm, that was a dream of mine anyways to make Aliyah. So I was like, let's just do it, get that passport, and just go fully from there.
And how is that? So making Aliyah, I can imagine while you're training, while you're a lawyer, while you're doing all these things, like I can imagine that was pretty tough. So tell me about your Aliyah process. Was it anything super crazy? Like, did you have to do anything ridiculous, or was it a pretty like straightforward process for you?
Yeah, so as an athlete, it was recommended. It's definitely a lot easier, I would
That's
say.
awesome.
Yeah, so I was able to, well, shout out to my advisor from Nefesh B'Nefesh too, but things kind of move a little faster. I don't have all the exact same requirements. So I ended up doing it all from Miami, and then I went to Israel, picked up my papers right before the season. I was there for like 5 days, and then just went straight to my first race. So it was quick. I would like to spend more time in Israel always, but ironically, the sport just keeps me a little tied down. But once I'm retired after the Olympics next year, I'll definitely be aiming to spend more time in Israel.
That's awesome. Are there any like this might be a really stupid question, but are there any like skeleton tracks in Israel? Like, can you theoretically go there and practice, or it's not even like established there?
Yeah, there's no, besides just gyms and running tracks where I could just do my sprint training. No, there's no facilities in Israel for me. There are indoor ice houses where you could at least push the sun in the summer. There's one here in Lake Placid. There's one in Canada. So it makes more sense to be North America based for me. So there's only 13 skeleton bobsled tracks in the world that are active, and
Wow.
none are in Israel. Most are in Europe. There's 3 in North America and 2 in Asia.
Wow. That is, I feel like it's so cool that it's like nobody else is like really doing skeleton. I mean, to be honest with you, Jared, before this call or before I reach out to you, like I had no idea what skeleton is. I'm sure a lot of people are in that boat. And I think you're really going to change that, not only because you will be in the Olympics. And yes, I know again, there's a lot of hurdles, but like manifest it for a second. But also like you started this foundation called Advancing Jewish Athletes. So tell me about this foundation. Like I read up about it online. I don't want to be the spokesperson here. I want to hear from you why this is like your side mission to do this on top of everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So Advancing Jewish Athletics came from mine and my co-founder AJ Edelman's own experience. We saw the impact that we were able to have just being representatives of Israel, ambassadors, and being able to get out to all these places in the world every season. We come in contact with not just athletes and coaches, but spectators and random people. And when you're wearing our shirts that say Israel Skeleton,
Yep.
people know who you are. And so many times you're meeting people, it's their first interaction with Jews, or you're able to have a conversation, answer questions, change their mind. But it's hard for most Jews to see that impact if you're on the outside. So we realize there's a really deep deficiency in the Jewish community who is so good at supporting so many Jewish causes, but with sports and ambassadorship through sports, that's kind of missing. We know there's a market because people see the value in online influencers, and to us, we're getting out there in the real world and have all these connection points with people. So we wanted to solve that problem of having no ecosystem for Jewish athletes to turn to and get the support they need to be able to get out there and represent Israel as well as they can. So we're trying to solve that problem. We're hoping by making history at the games next year, helping bring Israel's largest delegation ever to the Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
We have myself, AJ, his Bob team, which includes Arab Israelis as well, that we could make a big impact and help people see the value and what sport can do.
I love that mission, and I think a lot of young Jewish kids also could probably resonate with that mission too. And I know you guys are doing a lot of great things, but on this topic of being a outspoken Jewish athlete, and not only an outspoken Jewish athlete, but also an outspoken Zionist, right? That is, I mean, as you know, it's very risky to do that, right? Like, let's be real here. Like you saw what happened in Munich, right? Like you could get kidnapped for being you could get kidnapped for being Jewish, whatever. But being an athlete, right? You have a platform, you have a brand that people know you more than the average Joe Schmo. So first of all, I think it's amazing that you're taking initiative to not only say, I'm going to represent Team Israel, right? That's not even enough. I'm going to start a nonprofit called Advancing Jewish Athletics and help other young Jewish kids also break into whatever sport they want to be in. So I think that mission to me is just, I resonate with that personally a lot. Not that I was ever going to be some great athlete, but like in a different life, I was going to be the best quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. So don't worry about that. Like I was in a different life.
There's
But,
still time.
going back to this idea of fear, right? Like, I mean, like you said, you're scared to go down an icy hill at 85 miles per hour. Are you more scared to do that? Go like actually physically partake in bobsledding? Or are you more scared to like openly say that you're Jewish and a Zionist? Like there's got to be some sort of fear there that when you're openly representing the Jewish people and Israel, like how does that fear compare to going down that hill at 80 miles an hour?
Yeah. No, it's just different. I think sliding's way scarier. I'm not scared of representing Israel.
I love that.
We make our own uniforms. I choose to have the star on my helmet and my back. I think I'm the most probably decked out in terms of their country's symbols and logos of any athlete from any of the countries. So to me, that's what makes it fun and makes it worth it. Obviously, I'm careful in certain situations. If I'm going to get kebab in some rural part of Germany or outside Munich or Frankfurt, I might just, I don't need to wear the jacket in that moment when somebody's going to be preparing my food in the back and I can't see what's going on. But at the track, anywhere that's reasonable, I'll be repping really proudly. So, I would say definitely going down 85 miles per hour should be scarier to most
That
people.
I was going to say that was a trick question, Jared, because if you said you were scared, I would have been like, why are you wearing that big star on your helmet? So you answered that correctly. But
Thank you.
I think also for you as an athlete, right? Like you get to interact with people at a different level than normal humans do, right? You have some sort of status. And do you think the status of being an athlete helps with like a first impression of Israel and being Jewish, or do you think it really doesn't matter when it comes to meeting some random person on the street that has no idea about Judaism or Israel?
Yeah, I think especially when you meet them in this setting, when kids come to the track and they're just in awe with all of us here, all the athletes, and it just gives you kind of like an easy connection point and sort of a mutual respect amongst the other athletes and coaches. And even if somebody's coming to watch skeleton, they're going to be, they're obviously supporting the sport and appreciate what everyone's doing. So it does give that natural connection point, I would say. And that's kind of why, like I said, with the reason for founding our foundation is that athletes do have that ability to connect on a more personal level. You can make people feel good, and just have some talking points to go off the bat and just make it easy to connect and to humanize Israelis or Jewish people for somebody who might think otherwise before meeting you.
I love that. And you're doing such a good job of not only representing Israel and the Jewish people, but also like some of the content that you post online with you. I think I saw a video of like you at the grocery store the other day or something, like all the sticky stuff that you do is I think it just like enhances that so much and like it puts you in a better light, right? Because if we're being real here, everything that's talked about with Jewish people nowadays outside of the Jewish community, probably most people think of it as a negative connotation, right? Like just bringing up the word Jewish or Israel, like there's unfortunately there's people out there that have portrayed us in this bad light, which we don't deserve at all. And that's kind of been a negative connotation, but you're one of the people that's really, really changing that, right? Like you're doing so much already with your brand as an athlete and as a lawyer and as a co-founder of a nonprofit. You're already doing so much, but I got to ask you, what can you be doing better? Like, is there anything with your brand and how you represent yourself, whether it's in the skeleton world, in the Jewish world, in the, I don't know, in the sports world, whatever, like, is there anything that you are actively trying to do better?
Yeah, I'm trying to build this ecosystem better. If I had full funding so I don't spend so much time just trying to get to these races and have a coach and have equipment, I would have more time to, when I go to places like, maybe not here because there's not that many Jews, but when I go to Utah or even coming here, going through Montreal, Albany, whatever, there would be more opportunities to stop and seek out Jewish schools and synagogues and be able to talk to them and get more involved and like plant myself in these communities and try to inspire that next generation. So I would say I wish I had more time for that. In the ideal world, if I was a fully funded athlete and didn't have to do all the other things, that's what I would want to be doing. And I hope that when I do finish my career as an Olympian, I'll still have those opportunities. I will still have those opportunities to do that. So that's kind of how I live with it and not get FOMO about not doing it now. So right now it's just, I need to just do what I can to accomplish the mission, and that'll give me the platform to achieve my ultimate goal, which is to be somebody that can inspire the next generation of Jewish athletes.
I love that. And I think you kind of just answered my final question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like, you've been through so much and you've sacrificed so much to make your dream come true. And as somebody like me, who's 22, who honestly, I don't know exactly what my dream is. I have a goal in mind, but I feel like I'm lost, and which is exactly why I'm doing this podcast, is like to find direction. So what is your message to young Jewish people that are constantly under pressure from whether it's their own parents or pressure from external factors saying they don't have a right to exist? Like, what is your message to us so that we will become like you and continue to inspire generations after us?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you just need to think about our ancestors and all the work that, starting with our parents to make a good life for us, but going past them and all the work that Jewish people have done for so many generations. And I just feel not a responsibility like I can't enjoy my life, but enough of one that I feel obligated to continue it in some way, contributing. And like I mentioned, my skill, it's a dumb skill, but I can run fast, right? So how do I use that to promote the Jewish tradition and to continue making us stronger? And I think no matter what it is, everybody has something. It could be as simple as just doing basic mitzvot and just going out in the community, making sure also not it's like supporting within the community, but getting out there and being a part of the more broader community at large, and just being proudly Jewish so that people connect those activities with Jewish people. You know, if you go and you're going to a soup kitchen, wear your Jewish star, people notice that. So that's I think if you start with doing things like that and focus on that, eventually you'll find your true passion, but you'll, at least along the way, you'll be getting a lot of nachas. So
I love it. That was such a menschy answer. I love it. It's like, oh man, Jared, you're a phenomenal, man. And obviously I know you're crazy busy guy and appreciate you times a million. So where can people find out more about you and maybe even help you get to Milan? Like what's the best place for people to go so that they can help you achieve your goals?
Yeah. So the best way is to go to jewishjet.com or on Instagram. It's just my name, Jared Firestone _, and I'll have the links there at the top. Looking now for sponsors for the Olympic year next year. Have a lot of cool perks available to have your logo or whatever message you want pretty much within reason on my speed suit, on my sled, promoting some of those videos you like, to going speaking engagements, wearing their gear on podcasts like this. So would love the support. And then, yeah, if you look for me there, you'll see everything you need to see, and feel free to reach out.
I'm so glad you enjoyed this week's episode of Schmoozing Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. In addition to sharing this episode with someone, make sure you follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. Also, make sure you're following the show on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. Until next time, keep schmoozing.